Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. Was on the original management team of Click Software that was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. One of the first generative AI companies that we founded back in 2016. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. So today I have an incredible guest, a master of making AI accessible. Scott Duffy is soft-taught. He's a renowned speaker. He's got a dynamic approach to AI and business strategy. He does presentations. He has a group called AI Mavericks to eliminate overwhelm and infuse fun into the narrative, leaving audience with comprehensive and inspired outlook on building great companies with AI as a cornerstone for growth. He's an entrepreneur and a keynote speaker. He's a founder of AI Mavericks. Before AI Mavericks, he founded Smart Charter, which was hired by Richard Branson. Yes, the Richard Branson from Virgin. He had leadership roles in companies like Fox Sports, NBC Internet, and CBS Sportsline. He started his career working for the one and only Tony Robbins. He's listed as a top 10 speaker by entrepreneur.com, and he's spoken at a number of events and commentaries of media outlets such as CNBC, Fox News, and CBS Radio. He served as a special project editor at Inc., VIP contributor and entrepreneur, and co-host of the top podcast for Microsoft. So with that, my good friend Scott Duffy is going to come on. Hey, Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
So how was it? So how did you get started? Where are you from originally? What part of the U.S.?
So I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up in Brentwood. I went to college down in San Diego at the University of San Diego. And I honestly was having the time of my life. I played sports. I was in the place I wanted to be. I loved the school, all that stuff. But what's crazy is my junior year, my third year of college, I was on a trip. We had this tradition down at USD where at the end of midterm in the fall and the spring, everyone would go down to Mexico and take this 9-hour drive to this amazing campsite in San Felipe. I was on my way down early my junior year. Long story short, in the middle of the desert, way down south, I got in this terrible car accident. 2 brain hemorrhages. I had to drop out of school. And it's funny, and I always say to people, it's kind of like, how many times in your life have you been going down a road and maybe you're doing everything right? Like maybe in your business, you have the right vision, the right team, the right plan, you execute flawlessly, and then something kind of out of nowhere comes and it knocks you off course. And that's pretty much what happened to me. Like I said, I dropped out of school. I started to recover. But the crazy thing was I picked up a habit. And the habit was I started to listen to motivational books on tape. And by the way, for all of you young people, tape came before this and that. It's like an MP3, I guess.
You got to explain it nowadays because the only thing they know is Scotch tape, right?
Right. So I listened to these motivations, and I just did it all day, every day. So when I got better and stronger, I decided I wanted to finish college and intern for any of the people I listened to. And back then, San Diego was like the Silicon Valley for the speakers. They were all there. And so the first guy I applied to intern for was Tony Robbins because he was the closest to where I lived. And instead I was offered a job. And so, it's funny because I remember I was talking to him about this one day at one of the events. And I said, I don't know if you know how I actually got here. This time of my life, that accident. And I'll never forget, we were at lunch and he raised his hand. Tony's got big hands. So when he raises his hand, you stop. And he said, Scott, you have good days and you have bad days in life, but you don't know which is which until sometime way down the line because you don't know what to make of the experience. And I found as an entrepreneur that to be so true.
So what was the thing when you went down through this accident and you had that happen, you had the hemorrhages, what brought you from the inside out had you decide you wanted to recover? Because some people could just give up, right? They would be upset and depressed. What was inside of you? What was that fire that helped you get through it?
I'm honestly, I'm not really sure. The truth is I'm not really sure at that time. I think I just wanted to feel better because I felt like crap. I was told years later by somebody else who was in the car that they thought I had actually died on the scene because I was unconscious with my eyes open, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I think it was, so I think it was an experience that was, I think it was pretty traumatic. I think that, my roommate's dad worked for Nissan USA, and the car manufacturer Nissan, they had the hottest car, this sports car in the country at the time. So he was everything. And he listened to motivational books on tape. And it was through him that I started to develop this collection. So I'm not exactly sure what inspired me other than I just kept listening to these positive messages every single day. And I think eventually it just started to sink in.
So the positive messages, so that, and there's an emotional, so if you look at it, there's a scale, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a drain. So you can go down or you can go up with emotional drain. And if you reinforce those positive thoughts, those endorphins and enkephalons start to fire and you start to become more positive. And, so you can look at the glass as half empty or half full, but if you look at half full, life is more vibrant, more enchanting for you. And having been through those dark times, I remember myself going through those times. And I remember going through them and saying to myself, if I look at this from a negative perspective, I'm going to become negative. But if I look for a positive, and my life entirely changed after that. Entirely changed, right? And so you can do anything if you believe. And so, going down through it. So how long did it take you to recover from that, Scott? What was the recovery time?
So that's interesting. So I think it was probably about 9 months before I really started to get the energy, like really get my energy back. I personally think it took me, probably 2 or 3 years before I really felt right. Is kind of the truth. I mean, looking back, like if it were my kid that had gone through that, just with what I know now, then my parents couldn't have known at the time. But I probably would have managed my recovery a little bit different, But look, the most important thing is this,
Scott, what would have been done differently? And you're managing your recovery.
I think I would have just stayed down longer.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wouldn't have gotten up. I think that there was a part of me, kind of like entrepreneurs where you're going to fight for your business. You're going to fight for your business. I think for me, I had this fight to just feel better again. And so I would force myself to get up and get out and things when I probably should have just been hanging out, and doing nothing. But I will say this. I will say that, you were just talking about the power of kind of a positive mindset. And I think that, whether you're listening to a tape or today you're listening to YouTube or you're on TikTok or you're listening to an audiobook, nothing is more important, right? And this is kind of cliche, but the 5 people you spend your most time with. And I encourage every one of you to do this simple exercise. And the exercise is write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Next to each one, estimate what you think they earn. Divide it by 5, and that is exactly what you earn. And that's just a financial example. You could apply that to any area of your life. So if you're trying to get up from an accident, or you're trying to get up from a business loss, or you're trying to get up from a bad day, you got to take stock and inventory of who the people are that are influencing you and who you're the average of. And if it's not where you want to be, then what you need to do is make sure that you're constantly leveling up.
Yeah, so you hang around with people who have a lot more money.
That's why I want to do it.
But that's true, because it's like playing tennis, isn't it? You always want to play. Somebody, I remember a couple of years ago, I wanted to really get tennis down. So I got a guy that was a former Olympic participant from Mexico to coach me almost every day for 2 years. And so I just wanted to do it because I wanted somebody to play with. And a lot of the people would say, well, I'm going to play, and they wouldn't show up. And I said, listen, I'd rather have a half an hour, even a half an hour with somebody that's really good. Yeah. So you become the best. And what happens is you really do level up, right? You start getting a lot better because somebody's firing those shots at you. You can't, why don't you get the ball, right? Of course, but you go up. And you're right. That's what life's all about. So, when you went down through with Tony Robbins, how is it with him? Does he think the same way? Is he very positive about things? How does he get through life? And how did that influence you?
So I was on the road for like a year working with him, promoting events. And then I ended up getting into tech, but I stayed around events and worked events for probably the next 10 years. The one thing that I'll say about my experience back then working with Tony was just and this falls into what we were just talking to, just at a really young age to be able to spend my time with so many people that had such an incredible sense of possibility. And so whether they had gone through really difficult times or they were trailblazing and had big vision, I think what happened was that instilled inside of me the sense of what was really possible, which my definition of what was possible was different, I think, before I worked for him or around him or whatever you want to call it. Now, I was also fortunate to work for Tony Robbins. I promoted Jim Rohn. I promoted events with Les Brown. So just a lot of these people that thought big. And so that was, I think that was really cool. And then the question always is, who are you around in your life that's thinking that big? Who has, see, here's the thing. I believe that people that have small visions or limited visions of themselves can never have a bigger vision for you. And so if you have vision, but you're not around people whose visions are as big or bigger for what they're capable of, you will always be held back. And so I think that was the power of working with him, is being around that open mindset.
Yeah, I mean, here's the other part of it, though. This is what I've seen, too. Mm-hmm. And I'll put my clinical psychologist hat on for a second. One of the things is when you think positively about it, in psychology, we call it the Pygmalion effect, the self-fulfilling prophecy. You become what you think you are. And so as you're going down through it, the other part is some people think really big, but they never go down through and fulfill their destiny. They never take the steps, the operational steps to actually fulfill it. They talk about what they should do, but they don't do it. And you take people like Jensen from NVIDIA, right? Or my friend Piyong Chen that started one of the first e-commerce companies. Mm-hmm. Mark Benioff at Salesforce. You go down through and these people had dreams and they executed to the dream. You've got to execute. It's like, you got to take the dream and turn it into reality so you can feel it and touch it. I remember visualizing. I remember putting pictures of things up that I wanted to do. And I said to myself, you don't want to be afraid if you get it, right? One of the things I wanted to be a professor at a top business school, and I did it. And I put it up and I just did it. And I started saying, okay, let me have something really crazy. I want to write music and have a big concert with 3,000 plus people. And all of a sudden I put it on, and I had never done any music like that before. I found 3 incredible musicians that had been in concert musicians in Russia. And I got 3 of these ladies together and we actually did some stuff. And you can do anything you want, anything, if you really believe in your dreams. And the problem is we don't really realize our full capacity of human beings. We downplay ourselves. You got to go out there. And if you say goodness and you bring those endorphins and enkephalins in, and you're making things better for people, all of a sudden it becomes better for you. Right? Yeah. I met a guy named Patch Adams. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's Robin Williams portrayed him in a movie. He and I went to Russia together. And I never forget, he said, laughter is the best medicine. He said, if you help other people, you help yourself. I never forget it, because we were sitting there and I'm thinking, this is like incredible, right? Yeah. The guy, it's like a famous doctor, but that's what it's all about. Let's bring some goodness around the planet. So if you've gone down through, you've done a lot of stuff. So you work with Branson. How was it working with Richard Branson? Because I know you founded Smart Charter and you sold it to him. How was he? Was he positive too? Did he have the same characteristics of Tony Robbins, or what was he like?
So my company sold to the Virgin Group, right? Which is, Richard Branson was the founder of and the figurehead. And I had an opportunity to spend some time with him and we did some media stuff and some stuff at Necker. But I think that what was really amazing about him was I just genuinely thought he was confident in a way that I wouldn't necessarily expect somebody with his fame and the size of his reach and influence and all that kind of stuff to be. And to like really abridge a story, I remember one time, my favorite story about Richard, we were going to do our first television news together, and it was Fox News. Excuse me. So he had a heck of a schedule the previous 24 hours, flew in from India, got off his plane, got off the plane, went and did some other stuff, came and met me. We did like 50 interviews that were print or online. And then we went to Fox. And I remember I said to him, we were in the green room, we were standing out looking out at the stage, and Stuart Varney was the host that night. And I said to him, I think it just like all hit me. I just got really freaking nervous. I got really nervous. And I don't know if it was the lights. I don't know if it was I didn't want to forget my 3 talking points, or it was probably that I was standing next to my hero entrepreneur about to do this thing, and I didn't want to screw it up. And I look back and I kind of feel like I made a mistake. I said to him, I go, Richard, I am so nervous right now. And he was so cool. I remember he just talked to me and whatever. We went out, we get on this thing. We have 7 minutes. So we get on this thing. I'm sitting to the right. He's over here on the left. And we're supposed to talk about this new company that we're launching. It's now a Virgin branded company. And for 7 minutes, Stuart Varney and Richard Branson went head to head on global warming. That's global warming. And at the very end, Richard says, if you're right, I'll give you a free trip on Virgin Galactic, the amazing promoter on Virgin Galactic. So he said that. We get off the stage and we're walking across and he's laughing. He thought it was the funniest thing. Oh, by the way, at the very end, Stuart, he looks at me and he says, Scott, he says, I'm sorry we didn't get to Virgin Charter. He said, we'll have you on sooner. We'll talk about it next time. I said, thank you. That was it.
Wow.
For 7 minutes. That's all I said.
So did Richard throw him sideways? Is that what
So we're walking off the thing, and Richard says to me, he goes, that was fun. And then he goes, great job. And I said to him, Richard, I didn't do anything. This is why I love that man, is that he put his hand on my shoulder, and then he kind of looked at me. We both stopped. He looked at me in the eye and he said, you did a great job tonight, and I always want you to remember I said that. Oh, man.
That was great. That's fantastic, man.
To me.
And you didn't have to say anything. That's the thing.
All I had to say was thank you.
You can't beat that.
But the point is, I felt like he cared so much. And I feel that the personality of a company is always going to start with the leader. Right? Because people who are of like mind hire people of like mind, and that's kind of the way it works. So if you care as a business owner about your people, about your customers, about stuff like that, you'll feel the way I felt that day. Like they will feel that way, and they will love you forever, and they will be your biggest evangelists and fans. To me, that encapsulates how I think.
Now, how do you still, because the network's really important. Do you still talk to him or not? No,
not in years. No.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's interesting because you have these friends that, one day they're nothing, and the next day they have the number one company in the world, and you remember them when they were before, right? Before they were the number one company in the world. But a lot of them don't change, to be honest with you. They're you still have those same conversations. It's interesting. So tell me a little bit let's talk about AI Mavericks. What was your idea behind that? Why did you form it, and what's happening?
Well, it's funny the way life works. So we might have a vision or a goal or a dream, and we work on it, and the harder we work on it and the more locked in we get, sometimes the more we lose kind of the ability to see what might be bigger and better around us because we're so focused on that thing. So the way AI Mavericks happened is I was actually raising money for an AI company that you and I have talked about. And, last year when Silicon Valley Bank went out and it changed the market for raising capital, and it got really tough. And what would happen is I would be on these calls and I pitch my company and with investors, and I knew so many of them for so long. And after the call, they'd be like, hey, can a couple of us stay on and talk to you about something else? And be like, sure, can we schedule a separate call? What do you want to talk about? Always the same thing. It was always our founders, our CEOs, our leadership teams have no idea what to do with AI right now. And they're under so much pressure to raise capital, they don't even have time to figure it out. Could you create, we know you were in training, could you create some kind of framework and come in and help us to do that? And then would you help these leaders of ours understand how to communicate this to us, boards, to investors, and to their teams, right? To get buy-in. I heard it so many times that we ended up having to close the company I was raising money for, but out of it came this. And so that's what we do is we work with founders, CEOs, and leadership teams. And today the truth of the matter is this, that most people when it comes to AI are stuck between this fear of missing out and the fear of jumping in. They don't even know where to start. And you have all these leaders that have been on their toes the last year. Like they signed up for every AI newsletter last year because they were going to be on top of it. Today, the first thing they do when they open their email is delete all of them because they're so overwhelmed.
Well, that's it, because it's hard to, the infobesity problem.
The infobesity problem you talk about.
Too much data, and we got to make sense of it. So these next generation tools, these multi-agent, multimodal large language models that we have right now are actually going out and helping us to be able to cure a lot of those challenges because it's very, very interesting. And, I'm seeing it a lot. You mean, think about it. On the planet Earth, right, there's 123 zettabytes of data. If you took CDs or DVDs today and stacked them one on top of another, it would go 94 times between Earth and the moon, growing to 8% per year. So where is data? The problem is data. And if we don't use the data, I have a company right before this, had a call with her. We're going through her deck. She's one of our portfolio companies. She's a Harvard MBA, AI undergraduate. She's focused on sustainability. And, we don't even know, companies don't know how the carbon credits and how sustainable the company is. They don't have any idea. They got too many things out there. So she's making sense of it. We need these tools to help us make better decisions, or nothing good's going to happen. We see what's happening. Last week, record high temperatures in the Northeast and Central United States. Record high. Caribou, Maine last week was 96 degrees Fahrenheit. 96, the highest temperature recorded in history. We need to go down through and use these tools. And so I applaud you. I mean, it's, but it's getting out to everybody. It's not one company. It's everybody needs to go down through and get educated as fast as they can, or they're not going to be around. The companies will not be able to compete with companies that have very sophisticated AI agents, AI employees, and tools in place to be able to help them solve the problem. They'll know what's going to happen before you do. You know what I mean? It'll be instant.
I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about kind of the future of AI, and there's all kinds of predictions that you and I could make, right? But the one thing that we both agree on is that the people who are the big winners in business in 5 years are the people that start to work with AI today.
Yeah, right. It's so funny, Scott, because if you look in 2016 and TechCrunch, there's an article that we did in July, and it talked about generative AI. And I was talking about one of the companies that I co-founded, and I was talking about the impact it was going to have, predictive insights, ontology, ladder networks, all this stuff. And people said, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. In July 25th, I wrote one of the first articles on ChatGPT, GPT-3, right?
Yeah.
And people said, this is science fiction. I'll never forget it. I said, it's fact. You don't understand. What is going to happen when somebody has the power of 20 Nikola Teslas and they can do this stuff instantly? You send them a contract and they can understand what you said. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to be so far ahead of you, you're not going to be able to catch up. Look at it now. So, I mean, I applaud you. So going down through it. So if you look at it, you did NBC, Fox Sports, CBS Sportsline. What brought you back to the AI? What brought you back? I know you said the company that you were working with, but what made you decide to go back to tech?
I just missed it. I just love it. I'm an early adopter. I love playing with new technology, and had been looking for the right thing. And it's funny. The first internet company that I worked for in the Bay Area, and this is back in I think I started in 95, the end of 95, beginning of 96. And it was a company called quote.com. And Mike Moritz from Sequoia Capital, like the legendary investor from Sequoia, he was one of the investors. And I sat right next to the conference room, and when it was time to do, and I started sales and business and stuff, and so he would stop by and he would hang out and talk to me before he'd go into the conference room or after during a break, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I got to learn from him. And I remember there was one thing that he said to me. He said, I wrote it down this time. I would rather have I would rather have a terrible idea in a good market than a great idea at the wrong time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so I think that timing is so much a thing. So I think when it came to AI, we were working on a business that we decided in the summer of 22 that we wanted to kind of convert from manual to leveraging AI. A few months later, in November 30th of 22, ChatGPT launched. It felt like we were in the right place at the right time, right? Perfect place at the perfect time. But I think that, then the world changed around us, stuff that we can't control. By the way, as an entrepreneur, there's like so much, almost everything that you have no control of, right? Except for this one thing I want to go back to, because Gary was talking about it earlier. You can control two things: what you focus on and how and what you do. I mean, what you focus on, what you do. Those are the two things that you can control. And so, I think I'd been looking for the right thing in tech. I think we found the right thing in tech. I think the market changed. There wasn't much we could do about it. But because we were open and we were asking and we were listening to what people said, we found this AI Mavericks.
No, it's great. I love it. Listen, we're coming to the top of the show. We'll have to do a part 2, but I need to wrap it up and stay on, and you and I can talk a little bit. But
awesome.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us. So, closing thoughts, Scott, and how do people get a hold of you?
So just really fast, I want to share, if you are somebody that is trying to figure out, like, where do I start with AI? Then I just want to give you in 1 minute, tell you what I think you should do. So first of all, I want you to understand this. It seems from the media that everybody in the country, every other business except for yours, is using AI. That's not the truth. The latest data from last month shows that if you look at all companies, big companies, medium, small, micro businesses, only 6% of companies last month used AI with a strategy in their business. So we're at the very beginning of this. So how do you jump on out? Number one, just think of AI as nothing more than a tool. Super simple, oversimplify it. AI is a tool to help you to solve a problem. So let's figure out, what are your business goals? Then what things could get in the way of you achieving them? And then, is there an AI tool we may want to test to help solve one of those problems? I would think about it that simply. I would test small, right? And then go from there. If you need more information, want more information, go to AImavericks.ai, AImavericks.ai. We have events, we do consulting. There are a number of different ways. We build AI workflows, a number of different ways we can help you.
No, that's great. Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thanks to all the folks out there who've joined us today for Runday Presents. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And we'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. So thank you very much, Scott. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. It's really appreciated. Thank you.